Heidi Giokos, hello again. The fire in the Joburg CBD, there's an update. What do you have for us? Heidi, go ahead.
Yes, Gareth, the death toll has now increased to 52. We have just been told by emergency spokesperson Robert Molautsi that the death toll is now standing at 52. It is expected to possibly increase as firefighters are moving into the building, a 5-story building, so it's floor by floor that emergency services are moving into. It's a very delicate and sensitive situation because the structure of the building is in question because they do not know how safe the building actually is. What we have been told is that this building is a hijacked building. It is a building that has basically turned into an informal settlement inside. We do understand that 43 people have also been injured and have been taken to various hospitals for treatment. I do want to get the spokesperson for emergency services, but I do understand that he is about to do another interview. I could have just quickly grabbed him, but we have been told just before we went on air that it is about 52 so far, but that death toll is expected to increase. You know, Gareth, I've covered many tragic stories. I've never seen anything like this. You are seeing bodies being carried out, body after body. You're seeing people taken into ambulances that need urgent attention and urgent assistance. You are seeing children that are literally standing on their own. Some have lost their mothers and their fathers. Some have lost their husbands. It's a really tragic situation here, and you can just feel it in the air. You can sense it. You can see the devastation on people's faces. Firefighters are obviously really trying their very best to get this active scene non-active anymore and try and get through the whole building. It's very difficult for me. I'm just going to get an indication from my camera operator if I can move out of shot because the sun is not really cooperating with us at this point, but you do have a number of emergency services and officials on site. So you have rescue operations, you have firefighters, you have SAPs also here, and I think it's going to be extremely important for the city. For example, our mayor, Kabelo Komanda, to come out, human settlements, public safety, all of these various departments to come out because there is an urgent need for assistance, especially for those that have been evacuated, that have managed to escape this fire. They are literally standing on the side of the road, Gareth, because they have not been evacuated to any specific area. And the tragedy also is that this happened just after 1 o'clock this morning. So people were basically sleeping. I mean, you are seeing people in their pajamas, and literally some are covered in blankets because this obviously happened in the very early hours of this morning. Some people are trying to actually get back into the building where, excuse me, you have SAPs really trying to stop people from trying to go in to get their belongings because most parts of the building inside it's been gutted, so there's not much left other than just what the fire has caused. So currently what we do understand it is 52 people. The death toll is now 52.
Yeah, there's many tragedies, as Heidi says, that get covered here on eNCA, and I think that sadly this is going to stand out as possibly one of the worst. You can see how tired those firefighters were. We saw one a few moments ago behind Heidi, just sitting down and just catching his breath, just having a smoke, I think, before going back in as well. But Heidi is 100% correct. Where is the mayor on this? Where is the Department of Human Settlements? Where is the premier on this as well? This is now becoming a human tragedy in downtown Johannesburg. We're waiting to see if any of them arrive. We haven't seen them, not as yet. Bafedile, I don't know if you've seen any authorities beyond EMS. Obviously, they're doing a stellar job. Our hats and our thanks to them for this morning. But Bafedile, let's come back to you, Bafedile Moerane. I'm not seeing any other government officials arriving. And as Heidi says, there's children standing on the road, don't know where their parents are, don't know what's going on. They have no clue how to act and how to react in a situation like this.
Well, Gareth, I haven't actually spotted any official from government, the likes of the mayor, the premier, alike. But at this point in time, where we're standing, the area has been cordoned off and has been cleared. People have been actually moved away, as the officials are saying that it's not really a good environment for them to be at this in the area. So it's just troubles remaining, really quite terrible scenes that are unfolding at this point in time. But you can just see the buildings were actually dilapidated, quite derelict buildings here in Johannesburg CBD, and we understand that these buildings have actually been hijacked. That one I can attest. I saw a number of people having to come out in some of them. Really, they are not in a good state. So we're hoping that later on during the course of the day, you are going to see government officials having to flock here, because this is really a terrible situation. It needs an urgent attention from officials to come and assist, because it's quite difficult. Where are these people going to go? Because there's absolutely nothing that has left in the building. Earlier on, we saw them having to try to go inside, trying to go and check if they can take some of their belongings, but there's absolutely nothing left. They are really stranded. A lot of a somber mood that is prevailing among others who are crying for their loved ones. Some of the bodies that I recognized earlier on having to be bent beyond recognitions. Quite scary scenes that are unfolding. So officials are here, the police members who have actually since the early hours of the morning after 1 o'clock having to try to contain the situation, but so unfortunate having to see more and more bodies, over 40 at this point that have been counted, and some of them having to be taken to hospital. Some I'm seeing them being treated here. So the bodies have actually been hidden behind this particular cars of the police that I'm seeing here. So the officials, the firefighters are actually here trying their level best to contain the situation, but more and more bodies are still coming out. Terrible scenes that are unfolding, as Heidi having to tell you that we're seeing young kids having to roam the streets. Actually,
absolutely. And as you mentioned, Heidi, Giokos, Bafedile, I think you stay where you are as well for the moment, Bafedile. I want to go back to Heidi just because Robert Moerane, Joburg EMS, has come back to her. So let's just go back to you, Heidi, for this update as well. If you just joined us morning, 52 is the death toll, and it's going to get worse, they say, Heidi.
Yes, Gareth, let's get straight into it with Robert Moerane. Thanks again, once again for your time, Mr. Moerane. I'm sure you are beyond exhausted, but maybe just tell us the latest in terms of the death toll.
Yes, the death toll now, Heidi, it's we are on 52 bodies which have recovered, and also 43 people who sustained minor injuries and also suffered some smoke inhalation have been transported to various healthcare facilities. This number of 52 might still increase since I informed you earlier on that we are moving floor by floor. Since now the fire has been stopped, we're moving floor by floor, conducting these body recoveries, because let's just give our viewers out there a picture that the building inside is actually an informal settlement. So therefore there's a lot of obstruction of the people, even if maybe people were trying to evacuate when the fire was in the process. So there's a huge chance that might be a lot of people who might be trapped inside that building, because the buildings inside is an informal settlement. So we have to make sure that we go through all the floors just to remove any uncertainty, and therefore after that we will hand over this incident to the South African Police Service. So we should be able to give you further feedback in a few minutes time to say where are we in terms of the number of bodies recovered. It is indeed a sad day, for the city of Johannesburg. With my service, of over 20 years in the service, I've never come across something like this. But you know what? We have raised our hands to say that we want to, serve the residents of the city of Johannesburg. We will do our best to make sure that we, recover all the bodies which might still be trapped inside the building, so that we can be able to assist the families, to find closure.
It's really so tragic, Mr. Moerane. I can't believe my eyes. I can't believe what I'm actually seeing. But I want to ask you in terms of, do we still not know the cause of the fire?
Yeah, at this stage we don't know the cause of the fire. I mean, our fire safety unit investigating team and also teams from the South African Police Service will continue with that investigations as soon as we are done with our search and recovery operation. Because right now, Heidi, there is no chance that we might still find people who are still alive inside the building. So hence I'm always saying it's search and recovery operation, because the chances of us recovering people who are still alive inside the building is very slim. It's a sad day indeed. We want to reassure our residents out there that we will do our best to make sure that we assist the families who are here, who are affected by this devastating tragedy, to find closure.
I just want to ask you if you are able to, at this point, tell us, out of the 52, you told us there was one child.
Yes.
Do we know at this point if there are any other minors that tragically lost their lives?
No, at this stage we don't know the numbers in terms of how many, but we still have that one child. But I think by the end of the day today, we should be able to give you like a breakdown to say how many females, how many males, and how many children amongst the bodies which we have recovered.
Okay, thank you so much, and thank you for all the work that you are doing. Thanks, Mr. Moerane, we appreciate it. Gareth, I mean, as you're hearing Mr. Moerane saying, and I think we can all feel this, that it is really a sad day indeed, and so tragic. You know, he's speaking about being in service for over 20 years and never seeing anything like this. And, you know, being a journalist for many years, I've also never seen anything like this. It really is difficult to comprehend what possibly happened here, but also what those that have survived are going through. We have seen a couple of people on the opposite side and literally just behind the camera, but they have indicated that they don't want to speak at the moment, and you can understand why. They're obviously still trying to digest what's happened. They are still trying to figure out what's going on and where they're going to go from here onwards. I think what's critical here also is the fact that this building is in question. So the structural sound of this building is in question at this particular point, and this is why firefighters have to be very careful. I think, again, the tragedy is also that Mr. Moerane indicating that unfortunately the bodies that are inside the building, there is no chance of those people still being alive. So right now it's just recovery at this point and not rescue, which just speaks to the extent of this fire. And I think also because it happened just after 1 o'clock, people were sleeping. So imagine sleeping and waking up to this tragedy. And Mr. Moerane was telling us earlier on that people were literally scrambling to get out of the building, those that managed to wake up on time and figure out what was going on. So that might have also been quite a difficulty in people trying to get out. Maybe some people got trapped inside, and we are still waiting for further details and clarity. We have been told that the number is expected to increase.
Yeah, and sadly, we're already sitting at 52. This is one of the worst tragedies, as far as fires in South Africa, not even just Johannesburg, is concerned. And I think what is probably more concerning as well, Bafedile, you and I were just talking about it before I went back to Heidi. We're not seeing any officials. I am just taking a quick look at social media. I'm not saying social media is the be-all and end-all, but Panyaza Lesufi, the Gauteng Premier, there's nothing on his Twitter account about this. I'm also taking a look at Kabela Gwamanda, the Joburg mayor. Nothing on his Twitter account. There almost seems to be no acknowledgement that this has even happened. And if we do the maths, this is about 1:30 this morning, Bafedile, when this fire started. We're 6 hours later, and there's still no government response on this. It's just not good enough, is it?
I believe at this point in time, Gareth, they have seen on the news that the situation here is really terrible, and it really requires that urgent intervention. People are stranded here, having nowhere to go. So I believe in no time they will avail themselves to come and see how they are intervening. But we're seeing officials hitting the ground running here, members of the South African Police Service, including JMPD and the firefighters who have actually been in this place since the early hours of the morning. So the area where we are, it has actually been cordoned off. We are seeing some of the people having to come here looking for their relatives here at the crime scene. Quite a dilapidated flats that we are seeing here. So in this cold weather, you would definitely ask yourself as to to where will these people go. We're seeing more and more of police officials and now search and rescue team having to come with the dogs at this point, as we had Heidi earlier on when engaging with Robert Moerane, having to say that they are now going inside the building, having to search for more bodies, more bodies having to be retrieved inside there. The number continues to escalate. Quite terrible. Some of the people now having to be taken to the hospitals in and around Johannesburg here. But the police are here having to make sure that the place is secured and no one actually is coming towards here in particular for safety reasons. So quite terrible scenes unfolding at this point in time there, Gareth. Very
Bafedile, let me ask you this quickly before I go back to Heidi. Let me ask you, because obviously cordoned off, no one allowed in the area, Bafedile, very quickly, you were seeing people coming out of the area carrying their belongings. Have you seen anybody being allowed back in? I can't imagine they would be, but being allowed back in, fighting their way back in to the building to try and get more of their belongings. Has anybody tried that, or have you not seen?
Not at this point in time. Even as I speak to you right now, the police officials are actually shouting to some of the residents who are trying to pass through here in the area that has actually been cordoned off, having to say that nobody is allowed to come at this area because it's not really safe for anyone. We were earlier on also told, given instructions not to go to a certain extent of the area that has been cordoned off. It's really terrible. It's not really safe. When I look at the buildings, as I indicated earlier on, quite dilapidated, left derelict, and having to be hijacked by hundreds and hundreds of residents here in Johannesburg CBD. So I believe, Gareth, that government officials will avail themselves to come and bring a good intervention at this point in time, because this is really tragic, very much trouble having to see more and more bodies being retrieved in the building at this point.
Yeah, and there's going to be a lot of questions. We have to follow up with this. As I come back to Heidi, Giokos, very quickly, Bafedile, you've been keeping an eye on the residents who've been fetching their belongings. Heidi, Giokos, you're really I think you're on the other side of the building. So you're right at the front entrance, I gather, from where tragically 52 bodies have been removed, Heidi, and I'm not seeing any reaction from anybody, from a political party, from a government perspective. If any of them are watching, everybody's in the Joburg CBD. I don't know where you are. I don't know what you are busy with, but you need to get down to the Joburg CBD. Our reporters are there. These families need government support, Heidi. Children running around, as you say, without their moms. They don't know what is going on. They don't know where their loved ones are in this. But it's going to have to bring the question of a hijacked building and inner city management to the front, because right now you've been reporting 52 bodies, Heidi. We don't even know how many people were inside this building, do we?
No, at this point, Gareth, we do not know how many people were actually inside the building. What we have been told is that it's probably about 200 people that probably stayed in this building. So far, we do know that 52 people have tragically lost their lives in this fire. I just keep checking my phone because there is some question around whether or not the death toll has increased to 55. However, we don't know, and I'm just trying to see if I can spot Mr. Moerane, but I cannot at this point. Interestingly, though, we keep speaking about where are city officials. I've just received an immediate release, Mayor Kabelo Kwamanda, to attend to the scene of fire in the inner city. We do understand that the Executive Mayor of Johannesburg will this morning attend to the scene of the fire that has so far, I mean, they haven't even updated their media release, 38 lives, which we do know it's 52 at this particular point. We understand that he is expected to only be here at 9:30 this morning, Gareth. It is currently 8 o'clock, so he will be here in an hour and a half. And I will give criticism to the fact that this happened at just after 1 o'clock this morning. Officials have been on scene since then. Media have been here since the early hours of this morning as well. And the mayor is coming at 9:30. We don't see any other officials at this particular point, but I think what's important is that the officials that are here are the officials that are needed, and that's the most important. It's the firefighters, it's SAPs, it's rescue and search operations that are currently here, which is most important and most critical at this particular point, to try and save lives for those that are injured and to try and recover the bodies that are still trapped inside this building. But it is definitely an indictment on government, Gareth, in terms of hijacked buildings. We have seen mayors come and go. We've seen mayors speak about the issue around hijacked buildings. The fact that you have emergency services telling you that inside an actual apartment block, a 5-story building, it's an informal settlement inside. It begs the question as to how many people stay inside one room. It begs the question as to why this continued, why this was even allowed, why this building wasn't tackled. And yes, there must be credit given where it is due in terms of the city really trying to clean up and trying to tackle these buildings, because we do know that there are many. But look at this tragedy now, and that's the thing about these tragedies. Many
it takes a tragedy, unfortunately, till we start talking about it, Heidi, because we're going to come back to both of you in just a moment, because there's so much to discuss. You can see Heidi and Bafedile, they want to unpack what is going on here. Yes, there's the immediate response from those on the scene, all the EMS, but I'm just hearing now, Heidi and Bafedile, maybe something for you to look up on quickly while we take a break. I'm hearing the city manager will only be going to where you are now. I don't know where exactly, but I imagine roughly at your scene after a meeting at 8:30. I've just received that update from my team here in Hyde Park. So the city manager is heading there after a meeting at 8:30. Maybe try and follow up, see what you can with sources on your side. It's a quickly developing story, so we're going to go back to them in just a couple of moments. From now, Heidi, Giokos and Bafedile Moerane on the scene of what is a deadly tragedy in Johannesburg. We'll go back there in a few moments.